Hello, this is Anne-Sophie, and I am the spiritual language teacher. Welcome to the second edition of our podcast. Today, we explore the theme of sovereignty. Yes, this is a big one. But our deep dive into the children's book I have selected will be the visual anchor that offers us practical guidance for embodying our sovereignty in everyday life. This theme has revealed itself to me as I have recently journeyed into my own experience of sovereignty. The journey started on August 11, 2025, when I found out during my routine dental cleaning that I needed to have a crown on my lower left molar. The lower molar spiritually connects with loosening patterns of feeling trapped or over-controlled and strengthening the inner back teeth capacity to grind, digest, and stand in grounded sovereignty. This literal crown message marked my initiation into sovereignty. The energy of Master number 11 and root number 1 of that day signal a new cycle of self-definition, where my mouth and teeth became the gateway for reclaiming my voice and sovereign sense of self. The crown appointment was scheduled for the following week on August 19. The procedure was cancelled energetically and ending before beginning. That was telling me, not yet, you're not ready. I did not reschedule it for months, sensing on an unconscious level that I needed time to learn how to care for my body and nervous system, and to strengthen my physical, emotional, and spiritual foundations before fully stepping into my sovereignty. In those months, I quietly devoted myself to this deep inner care. It's not until February 17, 2026, my mother's birthday, that I am ready to hear the call. 17 holds the energy of initiation and spiritual insight, and its 8 vibration is about embodied power and the balance between the spiritual and the material. The full date reduced to the number 2, which speaks to partnership and walking a path together. The call comes from my 20-year-old son, Nico, who has a dentist appointment that day, and asks me for a ride. I don't fully commit at first and answer yes if I'm available. I do end up going with him. This is a small but clear sign that I am getting ready to answer the call and take action. His visit then becomes my doorway. When scheduling my own appointment, I step into a shared ancestral path of healing and sovereignty that quietly calls my power and voice forward. On March 10, a 1 day in a 5 vibration, the first crown appointment becomes a crucible of change. Symbolically, the numbers 10 and 1 are asking me to step into a new beginning and a clearer sense of myself, while 5 is inviting me into change through intense sensation and the disruption of my usual patterns. In that chair, with the drill vibrating through the cracked tooth into the living root, the heat on that day, the numbing medication, and the intensity of the whole experience become a mirror. I watch myself stay with the sensations and the stress and realize that this time, my foundation is holding. Just like Croco in my first, at the time still unreleased podcast episode, my nervous system willow coherence is tested that day, falling into the hole yet staying in integrity, dancing with the wind rather than against it. On this day, I receive a temporary crown, an X-ray, and a 3-week window to see whether a root canal will be needed. As it ended, I feel a deep relief and a surprising sense of acceptance of it all. The next significant date, less than 3 weeks later, is March 26, which is a universal 4-day, symbolizing foundations, new beginnings, expressive ease, and stability. The number 4 energy has been tracking me in multiples of 2, 3, and 4, on license plates and in other places, again and again for most of the last 2 years. That evening, while brushing my teeth, the temporary crown falls out. I laugh when it happens, and with genuine delight, notice that I feel absolutely no pain. In that moment, I know my foundations, both spiritual and in the root of my tooth, are not only uncompromised, but strong and steady and rooted, pun intended, in self-gratitude. Earlier that day, I had an online custom scent blend ceremony with alchemist extraordinaire Natalie from God's Eye Oils, when she crafted a sacred personal scent for me, which, like an anointing oil, marks and consecrates my authentic voice in this inner coronation that my foundations are finally strong enough to carry. A few days later, March 31st, is the day that will reveal whether or not I need a root canal, but I already know the answer. That date holds the numerology of 8, 1, and 9, power under pressure, new beginnings, and completion all at once. The extra drilling without a root canal mirrors this 8 energy as a crucible, stress testing my foundation rather than destroying it. The 9 tone shows up at last contractions energy, uncomfortable heat and compression right before release and closure. Symbolically, keeping the root means that my core foundation remains intact while being refined. I am not just finishing a dental appointment, I am completing a cycle so that the inner crown of my authentic voice can rest on something truly stable. My podcast has been recorded and is ready to be released the next day on April 1st, when the numerology holds a universal 6th day, symbolizing harmony, healing, and heart-centered wisdom. A day to let my authentic voice step forward and take its place at the center of my life. April 14 is the final appointment for my permanent crown. The numerology of that day, 1, 1, and 5, connects with the energy of self-sovereignty and initiation. It is me claiming my voice without waiting for outside permission. But again, the appointment is canceled by the dentist and postponed 2 days later on April 16. Postponement of my inner coronation is not a setback, but a divinely timed pause, inviting me to integrate before this new structure is sealed. On the evening of April 14, I go to a yoga class, during which the intense heat of the day, due to unusually hot weather and the absence of AC, becomes a kind of transformational fire. My ability to embody my willow coherence is evidence that I am actually transforming. After the class, I go home, completely drained, and that night, I finally received the message my jaw has been sending me all these years to grinding and contracting. This leads me to acknowledge with self-compassion that my voice has been held back. I then realize I am not just waiting for a crown. I am learning to release the long-held contraction that has held my voice silent, so that when the crown comes, it rests on a body that feels safe to speak. On April 16, I receive an email from the principal of my school that activates a very familiar and unbearable feeling in my sacral chakra, not being seen and not being heard. But this time, I watch myself and I do not react. I know this is an opportunity to embody my sovereignty, even though I have not yet received my crown. I know this is the test, so I respond in writing in complete truth and authenticity. I am not in fear. It feels choiceless. This is true awakened free will. There is only one way to go. I send the email and go to my dentist appointment. I'm riding the energy wave of the day, an energy of my new beginning, 1, moving through change and freedom, 5, as actual expression, 3. At the dentist, it is just a formality, but it still takes time for the crown to fit perfectly. The crown is put in and taken out of my mouth at least 7 times to find the perfect fit. This takes enough time so that by the time I come out of the dentist office, I have received 2 responses to my email from my boss. The first is a formal gatekeeping reply, trying to redirect my energy into a controlled channel. But at 4:44, second reactionary email arrives, and this time I am witnessing the shadow side of 4, where discipline becomes rigidity and order becomes suppression. It is the system's attempt to stabilize itself through control. This email demands that I meet alone first thing the very next morning. It is a classic 4 move to bring the energy into a controlled container, to enforce boundaries, not for clarity, but for control. What is happening energetically? While I'm at the dentist, my mouth is literally being opened and closed repeatedly, a symbolic act of refining my expression. I am in a state of surrender, unable to speak, but fully present. The 4:44 reactionary email is not a response to my words. It is a response to the shift in my energetic signature. While I'm undergoing a symbolic initiation, the control move is being enacted. My silence is more powerful than my words. This is not just a message. It is a signal that my willow coherence has destabilized the old pattern, that my inner stability is no longer in service to the existing hierarchy, but to my own foundation. That night, I sleep poorly. In my head, I rehearse what I want to say and how I want to speak, unwavering, calm, all in truth, and not fall in the too familiar trap of silence and resentment. Now I know the power of my words, and I can put my practice to use. when the time finally comes, I am exhausted. This is going to be a very long day. When I step into the meeting, another person is there, a silent scribe, present to witness, but not intervene, to support the principle, but not question, the one who has traded coherence for compliance. I actually prefer not to be alone. As I sit down, I face someone hiding behind a mask. The mask is smiling, but I feel the inauthenticity. Despite that, a tiny part of me for a few seconds is envious of the mask, so poised and seemingly calm. I, on the other hand, feel like an angry child. The fire comes out. The child who once swallowed truth, finally letting it rise and be heard. In French, there's an expression, j'ai dit tout ce que j'avais sur le cœur, that translates to, I said everything I had on my heart. I named the dynamics clearly again and again. Gaslighting, division, illusion of community, being addressed as a child, condescending, being invited to divulge secrets. Then it is over. I leave. This feels different. It is all change. Nothing can ever be the same. I was not heard and seen, but I express my authentic truth. As the angry child, I did not regress. I reclaimed. The truth is out. Nothing can undo that. A few moments later, I find myself out of the blue, but not really, telling my students that I am the truth detective when one child jokingly tries to trick me. My words now carry weight, not because they are loud, but because they are aligned. I can detect distortions in tone, language, and presence, and I name them, not to accuse, but to collapse the illusion. The illusion of safety in silence, authority in mask, coherence in compliance, weakness in emotion. I make my peace with the mess, because truth is rarely clean. Messy truth is more coherent than polished silence, and messy truth is what gets me out of the loop of invisibility into sovereignty. The truth sets me free. As this journey deepens, I realize it's not a random event. It's a chapter in a larger narrative etched into my very being. My dental journey itself becomes a living metaphor for sovereignty. Now, let's take a look at the word sovereignty before I introduce our book. Sovereignty comes from the Old French word souveraineté, meaning supreme power or authority. In English, the spelling of sovereign was later shaped by the word règne, reign. So you can hear and see super, above, and reign, rule, inside sovereign, giving the sense of one whose rule is above all others. So sovereignty is supreme power or authority. Over time, its meaning has shifted from the absolute power of a single ruler to more complex, shared forms of authority. Political thinkers shifted that power from monarchs to the people and then into constitutions and parliaments. In the modern world, on paper, sovereignty means a state or the people hold supreme authority within a territory and other states are not supposed to interfere. In practice, sovereignty is always limited and negotiated by other states, by international law, by economics, by internal resistance, and by the simple fact that no power is truly absolute. So this is the political and legal definition. Now let's dive into spiritual sovereignty. And instead of offering you another definition, I am going to introduce our book and let it gently guide us into anchoring what spiritual sovereignty means, leading us toward a deeper understanding. For now, simply ask yourself, what does sovereignty mean or feel like to me right now? Hold that question quietly as we move through this episode, and notice if something in you shifts by the end of the podcast. Now on to our book. This book is by another incredible author and illustrator. And like our first book by Azul Lopez, Croco, it also has a single name for its title, Eric by Shaun Tan. Shaun Tan is a prolific Australian writer and illustrator known for surreal, poetic picture books that sit between children's literature and fine art, inviting us into inner worlds and complex emotional landscapes. With this book, Eric, we are diving into spiritual sovereignty. So I'm going to read it, and then we will do our deep dive. And if you're listening only, enjoy the freedom to imagine the visuals as you hear the words. Let the story paint itself in your mind, and perhaps later you'll be inspired to see the illustrations for yourself. Eric by Shaun Tan. Some years ago, we had a foreign exchange student come to live with us. We found it very difficult to pronounce his name correctly. But he didn't mind. He told us to just call him Eric. We had repainted the spare room, bought new rugs and furniture, and generally made sure everything would be comfortable for him. So I can't say why it was that Eric chose to sleep and study most of the time in our kitchen pantry. It must be a cultural thing, said Mom, as long as he is happy. We started storing food and kitchen things in other cupboards so we wouldn't disturb him. But sometimes I wonder if Eric was happy. He was so polite that I'm not sure if something bothered him. It was a few times I saw him through the pantry door gap, studying with silent intensity, and imagined what it might be like for him here in our country. Secretly, I had been looking forward to having a foreign visitor. I had so many things to show him. For once, I could be a local expert, a fountain of interesting facts and opinions. Fortunately, Eric was always very curious and always had plenty of questions. Unfortunately, they weren't the kind of questions I had been expecting. Most of the time, I could only say, I'm not really sure. That's just how it is. I didn't feel very helpful at all. I had planned for us to go on a number of weekly excursions together, as I was determined to show our visitor the best places in the city and its surrounds. I think Eric enjoyed these trips, but it was hard to really know. He just didn't say very much. Most of the time, he seemed only interested in small things he discovered on the ground. I might find this a little exasperating, but kept thinking about what Mom had said about the cultural thing. Then I didn't mind so much. Even so, none of us could help but be bewildered by the way Eric left our home. A sudden departure early one morning with little more than a wave and a polite goodbye. It actually took us a while to realize he wasn't coming back. There was much speculation over dinner later that evening. Did Eric seem upset? Did he enjoy his stay? Would he ever hear from him again? The next two pages don't have illustration. An uncomfortable feeling hung in the air, like something unfinished, unresolved. It bothers us for hours, or at least until one of us discovers what was in the pantry. Go and see for yourself. It's still there after all these years, thriving in the darkness. It's the first thing we show any new visitors to our house. Look at what our foreign exchange student left for us, we tell them. And the next page shows what's in the pantry without any text. It must be a cultural thing, says Mom. So let's take a good look at the cover. If you're reading this with children, I invite you to ask them what they see or feel when they look at this cover. What do we see? We see the title Eric written in simple white letters, understated, allowing the artwork to take center stage. The cover features the head of Eric, a small, enigmatic figure in black, with 3 distinct spikes on his head that give him a unique silhouette. His eyes are simple, round, a very light green, almost glowing with curiosity and innocence. The 3 spikes can evoke, among other things, a crown. It was not obvious to me when I first encountered the book a few months ago, but one child immediately saw it. The background is a rich, painterly field of beautiful shades of green with fine white rain-like lines. The green holds the feeling of growth, curiosity, and new experience, exactly what Eric embodies as he explores his host family's home. The layered greens and white lines evoke a sense of mystery and depth, hinting at a word that is alive and vibrant, but also soft and welcoming, much like the family that hosts Eric. The name Eric comes from Old Norse, which is composed of 2 elements, one meaning ever or always, and the second one meaning ruler or king. So Eric literally translates to always ruler or eternal king. It carries the archetype of sovereignty, leadership, and enduring strength. A coincidence? I think not. The first page reads, some years ago, we had a foreign exchange student come to live with us. We found it very difficult to pronounce his name correctly, but he didn't mind. He told us just to call him Eric. On this page, we meet Eric. He is small, tiny even, waving with his left hand, carrying a peanut as his suitcase in his right hand. The peanut has a tag that reads AA. To his left on the ground is another suitcase, a walnut with a tag, and behind that, an acorn. The illustration is in black and white, beautifully rendered. The realism of the suitcases contrasts with the flat, monochrome simplicity of Eric. He seems so friendly, so happy to be here. But there is more beneath the surface. Eric's suitcases are not just nut. They are symbols of potential. Peanut is humble, common, yet nourishing. It carries the tag AA, American Airlines, or as the first letter of the alphabet, a nod to beginnings, to the first step of a journey. The walnut is hard, shelled, protective, containing a complex interior. It suggests wisdom, secrets, or experiences yet to be shared. The acorn is the seed of an oak, a symbol of growth, strength, and future potential. It hints that Eric, though small now, carries within him the possibility of becoming something much greater. And Eric himself, with his simple, flat silhouette, stands in contrast to the detailed realism of the suitcases. This contrast invites us to see him not just as a character, but as a mirror reflecting how we perceive newcomers, how we project stories onto those who arrive with little but carry much. So as we look at this page, let's ask ourselves and our children, what do Eric's suitcases say about him? What might he be bringing into this home, into this story? And what might we discover if we open those suitcases? With our eyes, yes, but also with the wisdom of our hearts. On the second page, we see Eric in the pantry. We had repainted the spare room, bought new rugs and furniture, and generally made sure everything would be comfortable for him. So I can say why it was that Eric chose to sleep and study most of the time in our kitchen pantry. It must be a cultural thing, said Mom. As long as he's happy. We started storing food and kitchen things in other cupboards so we wouldn't disturb him. The illustration reveals the inside of the kitchen pantry. On a shelf sits Eric nestled inside a teacup with a saucer, only his crown peeking out. On the saucer rests the walnut and the acorn, his mysterious suitcases. Surrounding him are ordinary pantry items, a jar of peanut butter, a box of sugar, and a few cans. Here are some potential symbolic interpretation. Eric in the teacup. The teacup is delicate and intimate, a vessel of hospitality. Eric's choice to reside there suggests he seeks containment, safety, and stillness. It symbolizes how he fits into the family's life in a way that is small yet profound. The pantry as sanctuary. The pantry is a place of nourishment, storage, and preparation. By choosing it, Eric aligns himself with the source of sustenance, becoming part of the family's daily rhythm while remaining quietly separate. It reflects his role as an observer, a still presence who shifts the household without demanding space. The mother's response, it must be a cultural thing, is a gentle acceptance of difference without needing to understand it. This line captures the essence of true hospitality, making room for the unknown, even when it doesn't fit our expectations. The walnut and acorn. They remain with him, unopened, the rope handle of the walnut no longer visible. They symbolize potential, secrets, and gifts yet to be revealed. The pantry items, peanut butter, sugar, canned food, ordinary objects that contrast with Eric's extraordinary presence. Here are some prompts for children. Why does Eric choose to live there instead of the nice room the family prepared? What do the walnut and acorn mean sitting next to him? If you were Eric, what would you keep in your teacup? How would you feel if someone came to live in your house and chose a surprising place to stay? On the next page, we see Eric silently studying a book. But sometimes I wonder if Eric was happy. He was so polite that I'm not sure if something bothered him. A few times I saw him through the pantry door gap, studying with silent intensity, and imagine what it might be like for him here in our country. The illustration shows Eric, tiny, two-dimensional, and flat, standing upright inside an open book. His eyes are focused, his posture intent. Behind him, the page is filled with writing, and at the bottom, an equation. His shadow stretches long and thin, cast forward and to the left. Here's some symbolic interpretation. Eric inside the book. Eric is not just reading. He is living the story, absorbing the world around him. It is a metaphor for immersion in learning, culture, and identity. Some of us can relate to living in a country that is not the country of our birth and upbringing, and how deeply that experience lives inside us. The equation. At the bottom of the page, an equation represents logic, structure, and the search for truth. Its presence hints at Eric's intention to solve something. The shadow. Eric's shadow is long and prominent, stretching forward and to the left. It symbolizes the unseen, the subconscious, the parts of ourselves we don't fully understand. While Eric is small, his impact is deep and far-reaching. The gap in the door. The narrator catches a glimpse of Eric through a gap in the pantry door. That gap is a metaphor for partial understanding, reflecting the distance between cultures, between observer and observed, between what is visible and what is felt. Politeness as a mask. He was so polite that I'm not sure if something bothered him. This line captures a quiet tension, how politeness can hide discomfort and how hosts often project their own feeling onto guests. Politeness can be a shield, not just a virtue. This page invites us to reflect on the inner world of those who seem quiet or different, and again, how politeness can be a shield. The challenge of truly seeing someone when they are different from us, and the idea that learning and adaptation are not always visible, but deeply internal. Here are some more prompts for children. Why is Eric inside the book instead of just reading it? What do you think the equation means? What is he trying to solve? His shadow is long. What might that shadow represent? Have you ever felt like you were in a new place and had to learn everything from scratch? How did it feel? On the next page, it reads, "Secretly, I had been looking forward to having a foreign visitor. I had so many things to show him. For once, I could be a local expert, a fountain of interesting facts and opinions. Fortunately, Eric was very curious and always had plenty of questions. Unfortunately, they were not the kind of question I had been expecting. Most of the time, I could only say, 'I'm not really sure,' or 'that is just how it is.' I did not feel very helpful at all." So there are 4 square illustrations of Eric pointing to something or holding something and asking questions about it. So there's Eric holding a plug and pointing with his right finger to 4 numbers, 5, 6, 7, 2. Eric standing by a box of Quick Oats and pointing with his right hand to the Q. Eric sitting in the sink drain and holding a pencil in his right hand and a piece of paper in his left hand, showing a flower with a question mark as if asking whether the pattern of the sink drain is a flower. And finally, Eric crouching on an envelope and looking underneath a stem that has flowers. The narrator was expecting to be the expert, the guide, the one with answer, but as Eric's question revealed the narrator's own blind spots, his role shifts from teacher to learner. Eric's questions are not random. He points to things we usually overlook: numbers, letters, patterns, stamps. Each question is a mirror reflecting what the narrator and we do not see. In the plug image, Eric reflects the unseen logic of the world. In the image of the oat box with the Q, Eric reflects the power of letters and the questioning of the familiar. In the image with the sink drain flower, Eric reflects the beauty in the mundane, the sacred geometry in everyday life. And in the image with the flower stamp, Eric reflects what lies beneath the surface, the unseen in the seen. Eric, though small and quiet, becomes the one who asks the real question. The narrator, though larger and more knowledgeable, becomes the one who does not know. This inversion is the heart of the story. It is about seeing differently. I connect deeply with that as I see my students and children in general, including my own, as my biggest teachers, and also anyone, especially the people who mirror the biggest wounds back to us. This page is about humility of not knowing. It is about the power of questions and about the 2 necessary steps leading to awareness. First to notice and then to observe. The word notice comes from Latin notitia, meaning knowledge, from notice, known, which is from the verb noscere, to come to know. Observe comes from Latin observare, meaning to watch over, to guard, to keep, to pay attention to, formed from ob, before, toward, and servare, to keep, watch, guard. So to observe is to stay with what we see, to watch it carefully, almost like keeping it company. It is about how symbols, numbers, letters, patterns carry meaning we often overlook. When we notice and then observe, we are led to awareness. Awareness that itself leads to inspired actions, rooted in courage. This is exactly what we're doing here with this deep dive. We're noticing, then we are observing, which leads us to awareness. And this awareness is an invitation to inspired actions. Here's some questions to ask when reading with children. Why is Eric asking about the numbers on the plug? What might these numbers 5, 6, 7, 2 mean? Why is Eric looking under the stamp? What does he hope to find there? How does the narrator feel when they cannot answer Eric's questions? Have you ever been asked a question you did not know the answer to? What does the narrator learn from Eric? Can someone younger or smaller teach us something important? Do you think numbers, letters, and patterns have secret meanings? What symbols do you see around you every day? If you could ask Eric a question, what would it be? What would you want to show him in your world? And then have children draw their own Eric asking a question about something in their room. On the next page, we read, I had planned for us to go on a number of weekly excursions together, as I was determined to show our visitor the best places in the city and its surrounds. We see tiny little Eric on the back seat of a car with a giant seat belt on him, giving the reader or narrator a thumbs up, ready for the adventure. This page marks a shift from introspection to action. It is the beginning of the journey. This page represents the commitment to adventure. The narrator has a plan, weekly excursions to show Eric the best of the city. This is not just sightseeing. It is a commitment to discovery, both external and internal. Eric is ready in the backseat, buckled up, giving a thumbs up. This image is powerful. It shows trust, excitement, and willingness to go wherever the journey leads. The car is also a symbol, representing movement, transition, and the vehicle of transformation. Often in life and in dreams, our cars are an extension of us. Eric's position in the backseat suggests he's both passenger and catalyst. He's not driving, but his presence drives the story. The next page reads, I think Eric enjoyed this trip, but it was hard to really know. He just didn't say very much. We see 6 vignettes here. On the first, Eric has his left hand on a coin-operated binoculars, and the word focus on it is very visible. Eric seems to be wondering or asking a question, excited by a discovery or by seeing the sight. In the next vignette, we see Eric's crown sticking out from behind the cage of an elephant. We only see the elephant's 2 feet. The contrast in size is staggering. We can imagine that Eric might be a little scared or impressed, but his love of learning and curiosity prevail. Then we see a beautiful slice of strawberry cake on a plate with a mint leaf on top and a fork on the plate. We see Eric's face, excited, seemingly wanting to be lifted up so he can taste it. Next, we see Eric sitting in an armchair eating 1 kernel of popcorn. 3 kernels are nearby next to him, and we can see the bag of popcorn. Eric is eating eagerly and watching a show. He seems to be having a great time. In the next vignette, Eric is on a roulette table holding a poker chip and about to play. He's standing next to the ace of diamonds and the jack of spades. He seems focused and he's thinking about where to place his poker chip. In the last one, we see Eric standing at a movie theater entrance, with the feet of an adult woman and 2 men around him. He's putting his hand to his face as if he's wondering. These 6 scenes show Eric's quiet inner journey as a learner, even when he does not say very much. Each vignette becomes a small window into his way of experiencing the world. The coin-operated binoculars labeled focus hints at his ability to concentrate on details and to delight in small discoveries. The elephant scene suggests the meeting of small and enormous, where curiosity stands face-to-face with awe, fear, and wonder at something much bigger than himself. The strawberry cake shows desires and appetite for sweetness, for pleasure, and perhaps for experiences that are just out of reach. The armchair and popcorn image shows comfort, absorption, and enjoyment. He is fully present in the moment, and his shadow matching his size suggests that here his inner and outer selves feel aligned. At the roulette table with the ace of diamonds and the jack of spades beside him, Eric steps into a space of chance, risk, and decision-making, as if he's practicing how to choose where to place his energy. Finally, at the theater entrance among adult feet, he stands at the threshold, hand to his face, as if he's wondering whether to enter a new world. Together, these images show that even when Eric is silent, he's intensely alive inside, focusing, feeling, choosing, and standing at many small thresholds of experience. Each scene is a symbolic snapshot of curiosity, scale, and the quiet joy of discovery. On the next page, it reads, most of the time, he seemed only interested in small things he discovered on the ground. I might have found this a little exasperating, but I kept thinking about what Mom had said. Here, we see Eric standing on a single floor tile holding his hands in front of him, as if marveling at something he has found on the ground, a button. The button symbolizes something small, ordinary, and easily overlooked that secretly holds things together. Eric's fascination with it shows his gift for finding meaning in tiny details rather than in big, obvious sights. The fact that he looks at small things on the ground presents him as a quiet mystic of the everyday, seeing a whole world in one little object. The narrator's slight exasperation reveals the gap between adult expectations and a child's way of seeing. But Mom's world keeps him open to learning, maybe a different kind of learning by watching. Altogether, the scene teaches us that honoring what is small and humble can open us to a deeper kind of awareness. This mirrors our own journeys of finding significance in everyday moments and realizing that the buttons in our life hold our story together. On the next page, we see Eric holding a metal box cap with both hands and looking deeply at its details. The text reads, about the cultural thing. On the opposite page, it reads, then I did not mind so much. And we see Eric holding a candy wrapper as if it were a newspaper. His shadow behind him makes the candy wrapper look like a square body, as though the wrapper itself has become his little world. Eric's attention turns a bottle cap and a candy wrapper from trash into treasure, showing how children can read meaning in the smallest discarded things. By holding the wrapper like a newspaper, it treats everyday packaging as text, as if the world itself can be read. A square wrapper body shadow suggests that what we focus on begins to shape who we are, that what we focus on becomes our reality. Eric ways of seeing from the line, "Then I did not mind so much," reveals the narrator's shift from annoyance to respect for Eric's way of seeing, from confusion to curiosity, encouraging us to see the world through a lens of wonder and engagement. On the next page, we see Eric seated on a single leaf flying out through the half-open window while a fabric curtain is parted to the sides and slightly moving in the breeze. Eric is holding a small daisy in his left hand and waving goodbye with his right hand. The white lines from the cover are streaming away, suggesting movement and the swiftness of his departure. Or they could be read as traces of light or petals, even though the flower itself remains intact. Symbolically, Eric's departure is gentle but mysterious. He leaves as lightly as a leaf on the wind, holding in the left hand, the receiving hand, only a simple daisy, a universal symbol of innocence, purity, and new beginnings, as if taking with him just a small token of beauty from this world. The leaf is a symbol of nature, lightness, and surrender. It suggests that Eric is now carried by the natural flow, not by effort or control. Sitting on a leaf implies trust. He is no longer grounded by weight, but lifted by grace. It is a reminder that even after all the complexity, what matters is the simple, the pure, the living. The half-open window suggests a threshold between inside and outside, known and unknown, home and elsewhere. It is half-open, symbolizing that not everything is closed off and that there is always a way out, a way forward. The fabric curtain represents a boundary, soft and movable, not rigid, but permeable, allowing the light to pass through. It frames the window, making the exit not an escape, but a ceremonial passage. Eric crosses this threshold without drama, only with a polite wave. The gesture of waving goodbye is not one of loss, but of completion. Eric is not escaping, he is transitioning. It is a gentle acknowledgement that the journey has served its purpose, and it is time to move on. The line streaming away suggests speed, transformation, and the swiftness of awakening. They can be read as petals, lights, or traces of memory, all symbols of what Eric leaves behind, yet carries within. The flower remains intact, showing that even in movement, the essence is preserved. The family's bewilderment mirrors our own when meaningful encounters end suddenly. Eric arrives, changes how they see, and then disappears in a way that feels both incomplete and perfectly in character for a quiet visitor from another world. This scene is a visual poem of release, gratitude, and the return to simplicity. On the next page, we see the same scene, but with one crucial change. Eric is gone. The window is still half open, the curtain is gently moved by the breeze, but Eric, the leaf, the flower, and the white lines have disappeared. The text reads, "It actually took us a while to realize he was not coming back." Yes, Eric is gone, not lost, but transformed. He has crossed the threshold, and what remained is the echo of his presence. The half-open window and gently moving curtain show that the portal is still open. Transition is ongoing, not closed. Symbolically, this absence of Eric is as important as his presence on the previous page. The open window and moving curtain suggest that the space between worlds is still there, still permeable, but the visitor has passed through. The family's delayed realization that he was not coming back captures how we often only understand the importance of someone or something after it is gone, and how quietly some transformative encounters end. Again, this page is not about loss, it is about completion. And the story now belongs to those who remain, to remember, to witness. The next page reads, "There was much speculation over dinner later that evening. Did Eric seem upset? Did he enjoy his stay? Would we ever hear from him again?" We see a plate at the dinner table set with a tablecloth and silverware, a knife on the right, a fork on the left, and a glass of water half full, its shadow on the right curving like a crescent moon. In the center of a white round plate lies a single peanut, the peanut suitcase. Here, the dinner table becomes a ritual space. A shared meal is often a symbol of connection, storytelling, and family bonds. Setting the table formally makes this feel like a deliberate counsel about Eric, not just casual eating. The setting implies that something important is about to be served or has been served. The questions in the text, did he seem upset? Did he enjoy his stay? Would we ever hear from him again? Show the family using this space to process their feelings and attempting to understand Eric, the elusive guest, making the table a place of emotional digestion as much as physical. The glass half full of water is a classic symbol of emotional content and the unconscious. Its shadow curving like a crescent moon hints at intuition, mystery, and things only partially seen. It reflects the question, did Eric enjoy his stay? Will he return? The crescent moon often represents cycles, change, and in-between phases, never nor clearly continuing. Here, it echoes the transitional moment after Eric's departure, when the relationship is neither fully over nor clearly continuing. A lone object on a large plate, here the peanut suitcase singles it out as significant. Artists often use a single item on a plate to suggest isolation, focus, or a token standing in for a person. Peanuts can symbolize abundance, resilience, and humble simplicity. As a tiny suitcase, it becomes a modest, almost comical vessel of a memory, a small closed container holding what Eric brought and left behind. It represents Eric's essence. He left behind not a feast, but a seed. Because it's closed and not cracked open, it also carries the feeling of something not yet fully known. There's more inside, but it will only be revealed if someone chooses to open it. The text is all questions, no answers, while the image offers a visual metaphor for that uncertainty. A partial moon, a closed shell, an empty place set, but not being eaten from. Together they hold the family and us, the readers, in a liminal space. Eric is gone, yet present in the peanut suitcase. The family is nourished not by food, but by shared wandering, storytelling, and the small relic he left behind. These scenes invite us to ask, what small thing have we left behind that carries our essence? What ritual of presence are we performing, even in someone's absence? Next 2 pages have text only. An uncomfortable feeling hung in the air, like something unfinished, unresolved. It bothered us for hours, or at least until one of us discovered what was in the pantry. Go and see for yourself. It's still there after all these years, thriving in the darkness. It's the first thing we show any new visitors to our house. Look at what our foreign exchange student left for us, we tell them. The next illustration on the 2 pages show one full shelf from the pantry, between 2 shelves stocked with pantry items. Eric's cup is there, surrounded by tiny little found objects. Bottle cap, a leaf, a pencil sharpener, wrappers, dice, a jar, a matchbox, an eggshell, a spoon, about 35 in all. Each one a pot for a wonderful little flower or plant, vibrant with color and light, glowing in the darkness of the pantry. It even includes a 3-leaf clover. Spiritually, this pantry scene is like a quiet parable about how one small encounter can transform the inner life of a family long after the visitor is gone. That uncomfortable feeling of something unfinished is the soul's awareness that a meeting with Eric was more than ordinary. The psyche knows there is meaning, but it hasn't been integrated yet. Discovering the pantry becomes a moment of revelation. What felt unresolved on the surface has been silently growing in a hidden place, suggesting that spiritual impact often ripens out of sight in the dark over time. A pantry is a small, closed room where we store what sustains us. Spiritually, it can symbolize the unconscious, the heart, or the inner temple where we keep what truly feeds our spirits. The cup recalls Eric's presence and becomes a kind of grail, a vessel that holds blessing, memory, or spiritual transmission. The ordinary found objects, bottle caps, wrappers, dice, eggshells, spoon are all things normally considered trash or tools. Each becoming a pot for a glowing plant suggests alchemical transformation, the sacred hidden in the discarded and mundane. This mirrors a spiritual truth. Nothing is truly waste in the soul. Every experience, even small or painful, can become fertile ground for growth. Flowers are classic symbols of the soul blossoming, of beauty, tenderness, and the unfolding of potential. Their vibrant color and light inside a dark pantry suggest that the presence of Eric has awakened a hidden luminosity in this household, a kind of spiritual ecosystem that doesn't need outside approval or visibility to flourish. Thriving in the darkness hints that the mystery of Eric is not solved, but lived with. The unknown becomes a source of ongoing life, not a problem to be fixed. It's the first thing we show any new visitor. Spiritually, this is like a family shrine or relic. They're proudly sharing a living sign of the transformation brought by a foreign guest. By showing it to every new visitor, They become stewards of a mystery. Eric's legacy turns them into hosts who now initiate others into wonder, generosity, and noticing the sacred in small things. These pages are a powerful metaphor for legacy, transformation, and the unseen gifts left behind by those who pass through our lives. I deeply connect to the pantry scene and its surprise. My inner spiritual life coming to be seen by me and by others arrive as an unexpected revelation. The pantry is our inner world. For me, the place where I've been quietly storing my truth, creativity, and messy brilliance. Eric's cup and all the tiny found objects are lived experiences and emotion, each one a seed that has taken root over time. The glowing flowers are the visible expression of that inner work. For me right now, this podcast and my willingness to speak honestly, even when it feels vulnerable or messy, it feels so resonant now because the garden is no longer hidden. Through my podcast and my voice, I am inviting others into that pantry to witness what has been growing in the dark for years and inspiring others to do the same. This also means that our inner work isn't delicate or easily broken. It is alive, rooted, luminous, and even the hardest moment, like telling the truth, are part of how this garden keeps growing. On the next page, we read, "It must be a cultural thing," says Mom. We see a close-up of the cup, and inside is a handwritten note, each letter in a different color, reading, "Thank you for wonderful time." On the saucer, there is a shadow of a three-peak flower that looks like the shadow of Eric. This tiny scene is loaded with gentle spiritual symbolism about gratitude, presence, and how a relationship continues after goodbye. It must be a cultural thing. On the surface, Mom's line keeps things light and slightly puzzled, but symbolically it says, "We don't fully understand this, and that's okay." It honors Eric's difference and preserves a bit of mystery instead of explaining it away. That's a very spiritual stance, letting another person's way of loving remain partly unknowable yet cherished. The multicolored note is like a simple but radiant blessing, many feelings held in one small imperfect sentence, coming straight from the heart. The cup holds that message the way a heart holds memory and affection, turning an ordinary object into a vessel of grace. The three-peak flower shadow suggests a living imprint of Eric that remains even when he's gone. Because it's only a shadow, we're shown that Eric's presence is now subtle and spiritual rather than physical, yet still shaping how the family sees love, difference, and the small sacred gestures people leave behind. I love that detail of the flower shadow looking like Eric so much. Ask yourself and your children if they notice it, and when they do, what feeling do they observe rising in their body? Comfort, curiosity, a sense of quiet magic. It is also a beautiful invitation to notice and observe the shapes and shadows around. On the very last page, we see the corner of an envelope with a stamp that reads 2 cents Australia, and inside the stamp image, we see Eric in the cup waving. This final image is a quiet sign that the connection continues across distance. The envelope and stamp symbolize ongoing communication and affection that can travel through time and space, turning Eric into a small, cherished icon that still waves from far away. It suggests to the reader that goodbyes are not an ending, but a change of form, where love and gratitude keep arriving in tiny, meaningful messages. What makes Eric sovereign? Eric embodies sovereignty not through power or control, but through presence, discernment, and quiet impact. Here's what makes him sovereign. He carries his own world. Eric arrives with a peanut, a walnut, and an acorn, symbols of potential, wisdom, and growth. He needs nothing from others to define him. His identity is self-contained, yet open. He chooses his space and chooses himself. Eric follows his own inner guidance, choosing the pantry and the cup and not the prepared room. This choice is not rebellion. It is alignment. He knows where he belongs, even if others do not understand. He keeps a gentle mystery around himself, never fully explaining his choices, yet remaining kind and grateful, which shows he does not need to be completely understood to be true to himself. He asks the right questions. He asks the questions that matter to him rather than the right question the narrator has prepared, letting his curiosity lead instead of politeness or performance. Sovereignty is not about having answers. It is about asking questions that awaken others. He leaves a legacy without demanding recognition. When Eric departs, he leaves behind a unique gift, a magical garden in the pantry. The gift is given freely in gratitude, not in expectation of any kind, and then released. He does not stay to manage how others interpret or value this gift. He leaves when his time feels complete, lightly and without drama, showing that he honors his own timing and path while still blessing the people and place he's leaving. True sovereignty leaves the space better than it was, without needing credit. His crown is pointed, not blunted, and asymmetrical. A few years ago, I came face to face with my friend's painting called My Blunted Crown. I absolutely love this painting. It is so beautiful and at the same time so intriguing to me. I did not understand it then, but now years later I do. This deeply personal painting for the artist was also a message for me, an invitation to embody my sovereignty, and the knowing that wearing a blunted crown is more courageous than not wearing any crown at all. The blunt for me is the messy truth. But the more I embody it, the less blunt it becomes. So Eric's crown is not blunted but pointed. Eric has been embodying his inner sovereignty for a while, and he is in active rulership mode, constantly adjusting, adapting, and evolving. Eric's name, with 4 letters, resonates with the 4 of the tarot card Emperor, representing inner authority, stability, and structure, presence that transforms, legacy through subtle impact, sovereignty without domination, and initiation of change. It is really interesting to notice the duality between outer sovereignty, who says, I am above, and inner or spiritual sovereignty, who says, I am within. Outer sovereignty is the crown of performance. It is a mask, heavy, ornate, and often hollow. It controls hierarchy, image, and ritual. It is rooted in external validation. It demands that others bow, but rarely allows the wearer to kneel before their own truth. The sovereign becomes a prisoner of their own performance, their power without freedom, their influence without authenticity. Inner sovereignty is the crown of presence. It liberates a person to live truthfully, even if no one else understands or approves. It is rooted in internal coherence, self-trust, integrity, and lived truth. It is freedom through self-recognition, not self-promotion. Freedom without force, authority without aggression. It is accepting being misunderstood and remaining unperturbed by those who value spectacle over substance. Inner sovereignty is a mirror, clear, unadorned, and steady. It does not demand loyalty, it inspires it. In that light, Eric's tiny asymmetrical crown feels like a symbol of inner sovereignty. Nothing flashy, nothing performed, just a lived authority that comes from presence, discernment, and the courage to move through the world in their own way. Inner sovereignty is about living from our center, not as a reaction to the world, but as a creator within it. It evolves as we deepen our awareness, heal our wounds, and align with our highest truth. So the first Homebliss is to grow Eric roots or grow your own roots. Imagine small flexible roots growing from the bottom of your feet into the floor, or if you're able, on the grass. And with each exhale, picture the roots thickening a little and your body getting heavier and more supported. Another idea later is to have children draw their Eric with roots. The visualization of roots plus awareness of food sensation is a common, effective grounding image in somatic and mindfulness work. The second Homebliss invitation is directly inspired by my friend's painting, My Blunted Crown. When you hear the phrase, my blunted crown, what comes to mind for you? Ask yourself gently, do I have a blunted crown? A part of me that knows it is sovereign, but feels dulled, hesitant, or hidden? If I do not think I have one, do I want to find it? If I already know I have one, what makes it feel blunted right now? What is my practice in this season of my life to embody my sovereignty a little more each day? You might take a moment to journal, draw, or simply breathe with these questions. Then begin to notice the language and symbols of sovereignty that appear in your everyday reality. Just as Eric practices noticing and then observing, this is our path to awareness. Dental crowns at the dentist, crowns in children's drawings, song lyrics that mention kings, queens, thrones, empires, or ruling my world. Movie and book titles that use words like kingdom, throne, empire, queen, or ruler. Crown, kings, queens, chess pieces, or royalty imagery in advertisement and logos. License plates or bumper stickers with words or numbers that evoke power, leadership, or being number one. Video game where you build kingdoms or rule a world. Sport language about crowns, championships, or GOATs, greatest of all time. Jewelry and fashion that feel like symbolic crowns, headbands, hats, tiaras, hoodies with hoods you love to raise. Even the way people talk, I run my own show. I am the boss of me. I am the queen of this house. As you encounter these images and phrases, you might ask, what kind of sovereignty is this pointing to? Outer performance or inner presence? Does this symbol feel harsh and controlling or steady and kind? How does my body feel when I see this? Tight, impressed, anxious, inspired, curious? Does this remind me of my own crown, blunted, crooked, soft, hidden, radiant? This is not about judging what you see, but about practicing what Eric does so beautifully. First noticing, then observing. Noticing, it says, this is here. Observing says, I will stay with this and see what it shows me. Through this practice, we begin to recognize where outer sovereignty, spectacle, performance, power over has shaped our world, and where inner sovereignty, presence, truth, self-trust is quietly asking to be embodied more fully within us. And on that note, thank you so much for listening. Merci and ta, as they say in Australia, as a token of deep gratitude to Shaun Tan. If you like this episode, like and subscribe. If you have comments, questions, don't hesitate to reach out via Instagram at The Spiritual Language Teacher or by email at thespirituallanguageteacher@gmail.com. Thank you, merci, ta, and remember to breathe.